Welcome, everyone. We are living in deeply concerning and unsettling times, marked by erratic leadership and devastating wars around the world, from Palestine to Iran, Sudan, Syria, Venezuela, Ukraine, Yemen, Myanmar, and Haiti. Conflicts that reflect deeper interconnected systemic crises. Wars that expose the violence of a global system built on extraction, militarism, and dispossession. Wars that are not isolated tragedies, but part of global systemic crisis today. I want to acknowledge this reality clearly at the beginning of this event and also claim this gathering as an opportunity to celebrate and learn from the story of system change leaders across the Americas who are working on the front lines to imagine and build more just and sustainable futures. As a reflection of this powerful and resilient work that people are doing around the world, I would like to share this poem by a wonderful Nicaraguan poet named Gioconda Belli. The poem is called The Strike or La Huelga. So I will be reading in Spanish. Dios dijo, ama a tu prójimo como a ti mismo. En mi país, el que ama a su prójimo se juega la vida. Huelga. Quiero una huelga donde vayamos todos. Una huelga de brazos, piernas, de cabellos. Una huelga naciendo en cada cuerpo. Quiero una huelga de obreros de palomas, de choferes de flores, de técnicos de niños, de médicos de mujeres. Quiero una huelga grande, que hasta el amor alcance. Una huelga donde todo se detenga. El reloj de las fábricas, el plantel, los colegios, el bus, los hospitales, la carretera, los puertos. Una huelga de ojos, de manos y de besos. Una huelga donde respirar no sea permitido. Una huelga donde nazca el silencio para oír los pasos del tirano que se marcha. Thank you for listening. Gracias por escuchar. Now I'll pass it to April.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, wow, that poem hit a whole new way this morning when you read it, Daisy. Thank you. Thank you to our interpreters. Daisy, I think you really already shared so well. The goal of this call is to learn from the folks on the front lines who stood up and answered the call to host a teach-in in their place in November. And so really we're going to be centering their stories and their learnings in the call today. And then our other goal for today is to talk about what's next and how we are really eager to partner with you all and many other organizations and networks to work towards another wave of teach-ins in 2027, really as a building process of the next as a building process of the next system itself, right? How do we really create and actualize this system, this world that we all believe in our places, but in a way that is globally linked? And just real quick, this call will be recorded. And just a reminder to everyone to please keep your mic silent when other people are talking. If you're just joining, there is translation available. So make sure that you select enable interpretation and select whichever language works best for you, Spanish or English, and you will have simultaneous translation going on. I'm going to pass it over to Ben Mansky to share a bit more about the Next System framework and the vision for Next System teach-ins.
Yeah, thank you so much. And this is really an exciting event because this is a time in which we're coming out of this last round of organizing and relationship building internationally and about to launch for the next major push and to expand our circles and our networks. I'm a professor of sociology, public sociology at George Mason University, where we have a Next System Studies program that was founded on Earth Day in 2021. And we have been working with many of you, and we're looking forward to working with many others who have joined us today and will be joining in building the relationship between people within academia and people who are in communities who are working together for the kind of system change that will deliver a next world system that we actually want. For us, we've said that's a system that is democratic, just, and sustainable. So, one of the goals of this process for us is to build this field of next system studies in the academy. And for us, next system studies involves the study of the relationship between system crises, systemic movements, which is to say movements that are working to replace the current system, uh, system design, specifically next system design, and system change. And that's in general, it's a general framework that we've built for creating next system studies. And we have classes, we have research programs here at George Mason University in Virginia, and there are people at other institutions who are working to build next system studies too. But it's not just a series of concepts and abstract ideas and epistemologies and methodologies and all the things that we do in academia. It's also about taking that framework and leaning in and mobilizing the resources of our universities and our colleges and our schools in a more effective way to do what we're already doing in many cases, which is to partner with communities, the communities that we're supposed to directly serve in our regions, to partner with communities around the world, and to mobilize our institutions as agents of system change, of social reconstruction. So you can find out more about Next System Studies at nextsystem.org and also at nextsystem.gmu.edu, and just by being part of this process and looking forward to continuing in this process with all of you.
Thanks, Ben. So quickly, a bit about the vision behind the Next System teach-ins, right? Teach-ins have a very long history as an organizing tool, often coming from within campuses, but not only, going very far back to anti-war protests against Vietnam, Earth Day, feminism movement, Black Lives Matter. So they're an incredibly valuable tool, right, for mobilizing multiple parts of society. Thank you. To really collectively take responsibility for leaning in, as Ben said, to the question of the moment, right? And the question of the moment right now is, how do we create the system that actually serves life, right? And that serves the planet, that is not extractive, right? That is not oppressive. And this is the moment where we have that choice. And if we don't really step into it, many of us know, right, what the consequences are. So one of the beliefs behind the teach-ins, right, is that many of those ingredients that we need for the system we want, for the world we want, are already here, right? And many of the experiments, the prefiguration, as well as the cultures and the worldviews that are more life-serving are already in each of our communities, right? But oftentimes they're disconnected, they're under-resourced, they're invisibilized, right? And so the teach-ins are an opportunity to call together those pieces, to see themselves in relationship to each other, build relationships, to share learnings, and we begin, really building that system together. One of the other aspects that Ben named, right, is that our institutions, our universities, as well as our other institutions, are best used as instruments of the people, right? So how do we reform that relationship so that they are really in service to system change and to communities themselves? And the other aspect, that's really dear to my heart, right, is that we're in a moment where the crises, the challenges we're facing are so huge, so complicated, unfolding in many ways that we can't, begin to predict, right? So it really is a space where none of us has the blueprint, but we need all hands on deck. We need all, everyone has a role to play. So teach-ins bring that spirit, right, of everyone is invited together to take responsibility, to have something to contribute. Academics, community members, movement folks, right, folks in nonprofits, everyone bringing together their pieces that they have to play and taking responsibility. And in a space of learning, that's the other aspect of teach-ins that I personally find incredibly powerful, right? Often we find ourselves in competition to say, I have the plan, I know what we need to do. And this is a space of really admitting that like none of us really knows, but we have a lot to share with each other, and we have questions that we hold.
Are you gonna go into the library and come back?
And we can, right, in the space of learning really is our way, our best hope forward. And so the spirit of the teach-ins moving forward, right, as we shared, is to really begin to grow that relationality, that infrastructure of shared learning, of contribution, of collaboration across the world, but rooted in place and linked globally. In this expanding partnership, a lot of folks talk about the mycelial network, right? That we see works well in natural systems. So that is part of what these teach-ins I have been witnessing are a vehicle for doing, right, in partnership with others. So I'll pass it over to Daisy to kick us into hearing from our amazing teach-in site organizers.
Yes. So a kindly note to everyone, to the presenters, people who are talking, please talk slowly. That facilitates the interpreter's job. Okay, so now we are going to hear directly from several of the teachings organizers about the details of their events, their teachings. They will share reflection with us. As long as we would love to hear them for a long time, we ask you to keep it to 5 minutes, please. And we encourage folks to, to reach out to the presenters to know more about the teaching after the call. But yeah, please keep it to 5 minutes. And we are going to start, vamos a comenzar con Claudia. Claudia. Claudia lideró Claudia y otras mujeres de Puebla, México, y junto con la profesora Alice Poma, lideraron un teaching en Puebla, México, en colaboración con la UNAM, la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México. Claudia está aquí para hablarnos un poco de este teaching. Claudia, ¿puedes hablar? Claudia.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenos días. Mi nombre es Claudia Jiménez y participo desde México y desde el estado de Puebla. Nosotros aceptamos la invitación que nos hicieron porque consideramos interesante la posibilidad de compartir y visibilizar la experiencia de los talleres sobre emociones climáticas que estamos realizando en México con una población no activista. El trabajo de investigación que realizamos en la UNAM sobre este tema y el caso piloto que se está desarrollando en el pueblo de Zacatlán, Puebla, desde donde les hablo, son pues en línea de la propuesta del proyecto de Next System de compartir el conocimiento científico con la población. Yo tengo aquí el espacio físico en donde hemos hecho estos talleres y pues ha sido muy grato porque nuestro espacio es netamente cultural y traer estos talleres pues también nos ha traído nuevas personas que podemos conectar tanto con este tipo de actividades en donde podemos hacer algo por nuestra comunidad y por todo el mundo y también conectarlos un poquito con la parte del arte que es el tema principal en nuestro espacio físico. El tema del teaching, pues fueron las emociones que estamos sintiendo al vivir la crisis climática. Aquí en este lugar se nota muchísimo nuestro clima ha cambiado, la agricultura, hay muchas cosas en donde lo notamos ya en el día a día. El enfoque que se le está dando a este taller de emociones climáticas es sociocultural, es decir, se enfoca en entender la construcción de estas emociones tomando en cuenta el contexto sociocultural y la experiencia de las personas. En este sentido, se diferencia de un enfoque psicológico o de salud mental porque no tenemos el objetivo de regular emociones para curar o evitar un trastorno, sino identificarlas, comprenderlas y canalizarlas para promover una mayor percepción y respuesta de este problema en la población en general. La dinámica del taller fue identificar las emociones climáticas que sentimos las mujeres que asistimos al taller, pensando en los efectos, en las causas y diferentes respuestas a la crisis climática. Uno de los elementos a destacar es que cuando se abren este tipo de espacios para compartir emociones relacionadas con nuestra relación con el territorio, nos damos cuenta de que otras personas están sintiendo lo mismo que uno, que también podemos haber sentido emociones que hasta ese momento no habíamos identificado. Eso me pasó mucho a mí dentro del taller. Yo no sabía bien de qué iba a tratar esto. Aquí en esta ciudad esto es algo nuevo, no se había hecho. y la gente llegó y no sabía qué hacer. Y desde ese primer día que no sabíamos qué iba a pasar hasta el último, fue maravilloso porque de verdad que sucedió esto. Todas expresamos lo que sentíamos con mucha libertad cada vez y fuimos identificando efectivamente situaciones o emociones que parece que no sentíamos, pero que sí habíamos sentido. Y pues ya no te sientes solo o como el único loco en el mundo que quiere detener muchas cosas, sino que te das cuenta que hay más personas que están pensando lo mismo que tú. Solo tenemos que reunirlos, ¿no? Entonces el teaching nos permitió abrir un espacio exclusivo para mujeres en el que identificar y reflexionar sobre las emociones que genera la crisis climática. Aunque esta actividad también está enmarcada en un proyecto de investigación que está financiado por la UNAM, pues esperamos que los participantes del teaching pues puedan ayudar también a difundir espacios similares en otras regiones y en otros países. Y lo más lindo de todo es que esto sigue. La gente está muy entusiasmada y entonces vamos a seguir realizando actividades parecidas al teaching y afinando la dinámica para que estos espacios se reproduzcan. Como les decía, nuestro espacio es cultural o empezó como siendo un espacio cultural, pero la idea es que esto que hicimos aquí, este taller que se hace aquí, se vaya replicando en otros espacios en la misma ciudad y entonces podamos ampliar pues todo esto que se hizo, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, pues aquí lo vemos, lo que vemos en la imagen, pues son nuestras expresiones escritas de en este caso solo vemos las causas, pues de la contaminación, del consumo, y pues fue muy bonito. La verdad es que hubo gente que se expresó muchísimo, casi lloraba, entonces eso nos ayudó mucho y la gente está esperando de verdad que comencemos el siguiente taller en marzo. Entonces, pues me da mucho gusto compartirlo con ustedes.
Muchas gracias, Claudia, por tu intervención y por estar aquí. Espero que te puedas quedar. Okay, so next we'll pass it to University of Vermont. So I guess Matt, take it away.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. That was very well said, Claudia. Thank you.
You might need to shout.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Is that better?
Yes.
All right. I will try shouting. So thank you for this opportunity to share back a little bit. Why we answered this call. Well, firstly, I think leadership. My name is Matt Burke, and I'm at University of Vermont, which is where we hosted our teach-in. And as we know, higher education, as many different parts of society, higher education has been and continues to be under attack on multiple fronts, particularly an ideological attack. And one of the implications of that is a lack of spaces and places to consider what genuine alternatives could be and already are. So we wanted to take the opportunity to explore regional alternatives, meaning in the region where the University of Vermont is based, to capitalism, and approach that through a next systems lens. So what we set out to do really was firstly to bring people together in an experimental and experiential process of learning and community building. Also to highlight some of these regional alternatives that are already and have been active in this place in a time when the dominant narrative will have us believe that there are no alternatives, or perhaps there might be one which is less desirable, or another maybe that might be less desirable, but very few anyway. And then also to provide a bit of a foundation for next system studies and what that might look like at the University of Vermont. I think our slide just shifted. There we are. Thank you. So how did we do this? We had a 3-day event where we had an opening with panels, especially that invited in the social movement builders and the organizers to demonstrate this diversity of alternatives. We had a following day where we had open discussions around topics such as social movements and social change, environmental and social justice, narratives and storytelling, and agroecology. And then we had an off-campus open discussion in the city of Burlington, just down the hill from the campus, that was open to anyone in the community. I want to take the time to also thanks to our many co-organizers of this event, especially the student organizers, who did a tremendous amount, not only for the individual sessions, but the event as a whole, and also to our movement leaders and our participants in that panel. I think some of the highlights that we took away included a short presentation relating indigenous economics to ecological economics. Really an elaboration and articulation of the alternatives that already exist in this region. You can see this really well done graphic here by Cassidy, who's sitting to my right, on the alternatives and dialogue that would include cooperation Vermont, the commons, bioregioning, social ecology, well-being economy, and degrowth. There are others, but those are the ones we engaged here, and that was truly a highlight. And then I think also the diversity of these different types of experiences and the way people showed up and were able to interact over those several days, including with music and food and a bit of a celebration. So what did we learn, I think, out of this? That yes, in fact, there are many alternatives, that the practice and the imagination is already there. And there's a deep desire for this learning, not only among the campus community, but certainly there, but beyond. And then there's a need to bring these different alternatives into conversation. There's a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences, and I think that needs to be understood and deepened, and those connections and relationships deepened. And then, of course, it brings the question of the role of the university that Ben was speaking to earlier. What is the role of the university under the current context, especially when we appeal to, anyway, at this institution, principles of justice, diversity, responsibility? How do we actually carry that forward? So in terms of our next steps at the University of Vermont, creating more of these spaces, and we're going to do that a bit today, following this event, and this event is also an opportunity to do that, deepen those relationships and learning about these alternatives in this region and across these alternatives. And then, of course, springboarding from this, linking to the good work of all of you. So thank you for this opportunity to share, and I look forward to continuing.
Thank you so much to Matt and all the people who are joining from Vermont, the Elfrey folks, the McGill folks also. Next, we have GMU. So take it away.
Hi, everyone. My audio good? Okay, let's try it. Hi, everyone. My name is Hanan Kazia. I am an undergraduate student and an X Systems alum and a student organizer here at George Mason University in Northern Virginia. For our teach-ins, we were kind of focused on this idea of, how did we get to this moment of a systems crisis? And then what is our role as a university, as people in a university to address this specifically in a public-facing way, where the university isn't just closed off, trying to do all the research ourselves, but instead engaging in communities and engaging with our students to become members of, the communities that we're a part of. So we had a variety of teach-ins over a week. There were a lot of really great, sessions about, folks who came from the university and also who visited us about the research they were doing about system crises, about social movement organizing, about student organizing like myself. And basically the intersection of this was, all of this is addressing the system crisis in some way, but how do we do it in an effective way and in a smart way? Because one of the things that we were thinking a lot about here in Virginia was that, as we come into political changes and economic changes, what can we, apply in our Virginian context, as it were, and how does that apply to the next system and building into what we want the next system to be. We were very governed by, the principles of wanting to be democratic, just, and sustainable. That was very much integrated in all of our work. And the idea of being very forward thinking, trying not to be bound by, what the university has been or what we've told the university can be, but trying to be as futuristic as possible and, as maximalist as possible. There is so much potential for what we can do, as long as we're working together. So I think I'll hand it off to Gabe to add some notes also about how we organized and what we're
Yeah,
going to be doing in the future.
thank you. Thank you, Hanan. So my name's Gabriel. I'm also a Next System alum. Um, I've since graduated, but thank you, Hanan, for that. I want to get more into like I've been I was part of the first cohort of the Next System Fellows, which is one of the projects that we have here at Mason. We're in the fifth year of that program. There's lots of kind of different work we've been doing, mostly community work too. That's kind of been our main focus up until this point. The main goal of our teaching has been to like look inward into the university, establish connections with different faculty unions, the School for Peace and Conflict Resolution, the School for Global Studies, forming all these connections which we've sort of focused for on this teaching. Um, we also, like Hanan said, had the whole week of events. I think we had over 13 separate events part of these teach-ins. Sort of getting to now like over nearly 300 people at our teach-in, which was like fantastic for us. It's very great. Um, and although all those events sort of facilitated this exchange between different areas of study, it created a lot of new like outcomes and exchanges that we weren't anticipating per se, but that have led to important outcomes for us and different connections. Yeah. I don't know, Ben, if you would like to add anything or not.
No, thanks for all your work.
Mhm. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for all that amazing work. Next, we have Universidad Nacional de Puerto Rico. Tenemos a Alison en la llamada. También creo que está Belmari, Ángeles, no sé quién va a hablar, but take it away. Alison, siéntete libre en hablar en español, por favor.
Hi, I think, is Karen gonna do the presentation? I thought that Karen was gonna do it.
No la veo en la llamada. I don't see it in the call, but
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, well, I wasn't planning to present, but I can share a little bit about how it was. It was a nice opportunity to bring together folks from different disciplines and different sectors. And we talked, basically, our focus was, as it says, mapping vulnerabilities, strengthening communities. I'm sorry if it's hard to hear, there's a lot of construction happening here. And so we brought together folks from the School of Planning, and in particular, folks who are focusing on studying planning for disaster reduction and its intersection with climate change and systems and the need for systems change to address all of that, together with folks from the School of Public Health, where they really focus on social determinants of health. And then we brought folks from in the community who are doing work at the intersection of systems and disaster work, including Habitat for Humanity, a professor of planning who's working on the agriculture system and thinking about bringing in land use around being an island, it's really important to think about our food systems and food sovereignty. We receive 90% of our food as imports, while we don't need to, because we have a lot of fertile land and we have a lot of knowledge, intergenerational knowledge around agroecology. And we had a really good discussion that was included folks from all of those different places, and really thinking about, I think kind of the core of it was about what are the openings that we're finding in this crisis. I saw that someone put in the chat, we hear a lot about polycrisis. What are the poly opportunities? I think that's very resonant. Oh, and I forgot to mention another partner was La Maraña, which they do community-driven design, community-led design, and community-driven development. And so all of those were kind of examples of the poly opportunities, the many opportunities that people stepping up in the wake of crises. And a lot of it, because we've had in Puerto Rico, as in many places over the past decade, we've had so many natural hazards that have become immense disasters, from the 2 hurricanes in 2017 that were Category 5 to a bunch of earthquakes called an earthquake swarm, over 1,000 earthquakes on the South Coast, to another hurricane in 2022, and then of course the pandemic in between, as well as some very systemic crises, including needing to go out to the streets to protest a corrupt governor who was, and his entire administration, who were really taking advantage of all of the recovery and response that was needed, and other opportunities that came out from that. I'm not sure how I am on time because I was totally unprepared. So if I missed anything, Daisy, please let me know.
It's fine. Thank you so much, Alison. Next, we have the amazing people from Cal Poly. I'm not sure who will talk.
Howdy, y'all. David Cobb here from Arcata, Eureka, California. Again, Cal Poly Humboldt was the academic institution, but I got to say this was really led by community organizations. I want to lift up, though, that we did have a couple of radical professors at Cal Poly who were instrumental in getting the space, right? But it really was locally led. We had about 75 folks, and Gabe, I was feeling really good about our 75 until I heard you're 300. So congratulations to y'all for sure. But we were real pleased with what happened. I was especially pleased that we were able, our framework was the solidarity economy, a very explicitly unapologetic post-capitalist framework. But then we brought together art and culture workers as well, and racial and social justice folks. So at the local level, Queer Humboldt, Black Humboldt, Equity Arcata, the Wiyot Tribe, and Hip Hop Humboldt were really star anchors. At the statewide level, we were able to bring people who were working on proportional representation for the state of California, the California Solidarity Economy Network, and the California Public Banking Alliance, right? So again, local to state to national. And national, I really want to lift up the Democracy Collaborative, the Universal Basic Income Movement, and the Democracy Collaborative, who really threw down with us. I got to, and look, the reason I was here is because I have had, I'm 63 years old, y'all, and I have seen and experienced the power of the teach-ins, not just historically, but my own lived experience during the global justice movement. Hat tip to Ben, who dragged me to my very first teach-in, and then the teach-ins that preceded this around Next Systems. And so I know how powerful they can be. And for us, it really worked to build some of those connections to get people, some of them that were very much in what my language would say siloed, to get to be thinking about a localized movement of movements. That was very powerful. one thing that I learned was just how complete and thorough the neoliberal capture of Cal Poly Humboldt has been. It was stunning to me. Humboldt State University used to be a very radical institution and had a long history of radical work. It was heartbreaking, Matt. I'm thinking about you. So we learned a lot. And connections were made both locally, state, and national. And we are moving forward and excited about figuring out not just in the next system teach-ins, right, which we're committed to, but also the other networks of networks and movement of movements to really cohere around an explicitly anti-imperial, anti-capitalist uh, 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 worldview to actually not just talk about this new world, but live in it. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you so much, David, for that very inspiring presentation. Yeah, a network of networks. Okay, so next we'll have the people from Chicago. Pearl?
Why did I have myself following David Cobb? So we had an amazing experience organizing our teach-in in Chicago. My name is April Donor. I am here. I'm in Little Village neighborhood. And for me, this was an amazing experience as a relative newcomer, as a resident of Chicago. Kind of started with this goal to organize a teach-in after being part of the team that was trying to build infrastructure and support for others to host theirs. And then it was like my turn. So I'm newer to Chicago. And of course, we were doing this at the time where the city was enduring and experiencing and resisting incredibly violent and oppressive invasion of ICE agents in our neighborhoods, dragging away our neighbors, harming those who were standing up for them, as well as, of course, many of the things that our communities are facing here in the US, right? Slashing services, attacks on institutions, right? So this was at a time where personally I felt a bit daunted, right, by this newcomer in Chicago coming out and trying to bring different folks doing this important work together around, thinking about the system we want, right? Because people were really responding to urgent crises in this moment. So for me, this was a process of doing a lot of like translation and grounding, and what is actually relevant to people in this moment. And how do I present this invitation in a way that will speak to what they're actually experiencing now? And I began with sitting down with a partner and friends that I knew very well and had relationships with at DePaul University, the Steen Center and Egan office, and really thought through, okay, like who do we want to bring in for this? So it was one of those processes of, starting to pull the thread of relationality and shared principles. And so over time, we had about a month to plan this. Created a small planning crew. Two of those are here today. If I miss anyone, Howard Rosing, Kelly Johnson, shout out. And then in the design, my background is in asset-based community development, as well as a number of our planning crew members. So, we really use this, again, this assumption that, many of these ingredients are already here. So how do we make this a process that makes those visible and really focuses on developing relationality between them? So we took kind of a two-pronged approach in the design. One was that we created, borrowing from, with permission, the language of the Global Tapestry of Alternatives, which is a beautiful initiative and a partner of the teach-ins. We called this a local tapestry of alternatives. So we utilized the entire week of the teach-in global invitation to highlight, what were things that were already happening within our city that were expressions of the next system trying to be born. And we created basically a Google Doc. We try not to be, too fancy and complicated in this. So we created a Google Doc you can see here to highlight those, which also became a great way to approach people and say, hey, we know you are dealing with a lot right now. We'd love for you to come be a part of this teach-in, but if it really is just a matter of us lifting up what you're doing, we want to do that. So that was really, really well received, and people were kind of not used to that. And then the other component of our teach-in was to host a half-day event. We held it at a wonderful church in the kind of the middle of the city. And we used a lot of facilitation styles that are very democratic and people-led. We used open space. We used an asset mapping format, and really invited together different representatives of what this next system, can look like. So that included people doing solidarity and restorative economy, restorative justice, neighborhood connectivity work. Definitely, we had an entire circle on community defense and rapid response, land and housing sovereignty, as well as we designed it using open space so that other topics could be brought up in the moment. So it was kind of a hybrid of pre-peppering and pre-confirming sessions that we wanted to have, so people could say, yes, I want my work to be highlighted. I want to host this space, but then we also created this participatory process where folks could create the agenda themselves and add their topics in the moment as they felt so inspired. We also had a session on technology and cooperatively run digital commons. And that was, an incredibly beautiful experience. I think a lot of folks were not used to this, and found it very, they were very welcoming, right, of this different but highly democratic process. One of the learnings from this that people, again, were really like hungry and welcoming, not only of the idea that we can use this moment of incredible crisis and oppression and danger and fear and harm to also envision and step into the world that we do want. Like it didn't have to be these separate things. And the other thing that people really welcomed and were hungry for was this idea of intersectional learning and building. Some of our next steps are, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to slow down for the interpreters, but there's so much to share. So some of our next steps, we did take time to do a lot of documentation of the process. So we still have some videos and stories that we're pulling together. We had a wonderful little short panel that we're going to be getting up, but there are a number of stories up on the Next System YouTube channel that you can check out if you want to kind of live what it was like a bit. We're also going to be following up one-on-one, right? This was a chance to build new relationships and deepen existing ones, and sit down and have conversations with these partners and say, what are you working on? What would this look like to build this ecosystem together? What could we do? And then the third step is in partnership with Chai Commons, which is a cooperative tech firm here in Chicago, is to work on building out a digital platform to help us all not only keep in touch, but even plan and develop things together. And that will be in concert and partnership with larger tech development through the Digital Commonwealth Project with the Next System. So yeah, I'll stop there. And yes, we're just really excited for what's to come. And I was so grateful for this opportunity and also for our planning partners.
Muchas gracias, April. Thank you so much. I know this and all the people, the wonderful frontline organizers in Chicago who, under very difficult circumstances, were able to organize these events. Thank you so much. So next we have York University. So Leslie, take it away.
Sure. Thank you so much, Daisy. It is wonderful to hear about all of the different teach-ins that happened. So at York University in Toronto, it's a big university, about 60,000 people. We had a crew that came together and decided on the theme of what kind of university can we imagine. So we talked to different organizers who are already operating in the campus on issues like getting banks who are funding pipelines and destroying, attacking indigenous sovereignty, people who are working for boycott, divestment, sanctions organizing at the university level, people who are working to fight government attacks on universities, building relationships with the local community, and thinking through how to do community kind of research and relationships with the local community and the university. So a bunch of different themes that we were working on, and it was really led primarily by the Department of Sociology, the Resource Center for Public Sociology, folks involved in various unions. And anyway, it was a fantastic event. So we had about 50 folks, undergrads, grad students, faculty, local community members come together to hear about these different campaigns, and then to gather in different roundtables to imagine, to kind of exchange ideas and then imagine what could be done. So it was a really rare space. That's one of the things that came back. People were like, wow, we never get together. We never have these conversations. And so it really kind of created an incredible energy about the possibility of bringing together different campaigns and bringing together people across different like stratifications within the university. So students, faculty, workers, and community members. Altogether, it was a great experience. We had wonderful food. We had flowers from the local community garden. We really wanted to, as some of the other teach-ins have said, manifest the idea of creating a space to imagine together and build those relationships so that we can go forward. I'll stop there.
Gracias, Leslie. Thank you so much. Yeah, creating together and dreaming together too. Okay, so last but definitely not least, we have Ana Inés Eras from Argentina. So I know you also speak English, but please feel free to speak in Spanish. Ana, sí.
Gracias.
Gracias, muchas gracias por
I,
estar aquí.
de nada, I may be code switching, so maybe I can do both. Our initiative for a next system is actually part of a larger path that we've been involved in for several years. And later, when I finish, I will put a link into the chat so people can get a sense of how long this story is. Y si bien esta iniciativa forma parte de un trabajo de largo tiempo, lo que nos concentramos en hacer fue en trabajar con el compost. So we decided that for this particular time and space, we would concentrate in composting because this is something that in the neighborhoods we do work with. The organizations is a very active action that gathers lots of people already. So since that was enacted already, we thought it could be a good experience to delve into and deepen into. We connected local schools from the neighborhood with the university where I work, la Universidad Nacional de San Martín, and with the cooperative called Colectivo Solidario, with an NGO of which I'm a part, where I'm located today, Asociación Civil Incluir. And so our perspective was that this could be an intergenerational and inter-neighborhood activity, which we were able to do. Entonces conectamos muchos barrios diferentes, muchas generaciones distintas, desde bebés hasta personas grandes como yo, y pudimos así lograr concentrarnos en esta actividad del compostaje que, como decimos nosotros, se composta compostando. So we do things in the doing it, so to speak, in English. So in the doing, we found that it is very important for people to gather around a connection that is very concrete, in this case, composting, that also enables dialogue. So in a way, instead of, say, someone starting to speak about something, what we do is we get together and do something together, and in the doing, we talk. So that was a very interesting way of doing things, that is, doing the talking as we were doing the things we were doing, that is composting. Something else that came up for us was that we connected with another network who is doing composting, which is in the next neighborhood here, which is Red Verde Ser. And I was hearing people talk about numbers, and it was difficult for me to calculate how many people we did mobilize, just because, for example, Red Verde Ser is a network that has 150 participants. Our composting network is 70 participants long, and the university is a very large university, so I couldn't calculate numbers. But I guess even though I can't say how many people were mobilized, what's important to us is that the word was dispersed. So la palabra se dispersó y en esa dispersión de la palabra, la coalición se hace dinámica. We use this term that we call it dynamic coalitions. I will be posting a link in a minute, so you can refer to it if you need to delve into it and understand what it means. But mainly what we mean by that is that we coalesce with people as we keep on doing things. And in that, what is interesting to us is that very many a time tensions emerge. So es a través de las tensiones que surgen de los puntos de desacuerdo que se genera el acuerdo. So it's in disagreeing that we come into agreeing, which is sort of paradoxical, but we find that a very key aspect of direct democracy. And I'm not sure whether I'm having more time, but I guess I don't. So just in ending, I will say that maybe because one of my first jobs was at a cooperative of workers, which is a type of organization that uses direct democracy as the way of governing. Entonces, precisamente porque mi primera socialización laboral fue en una cooperativa de trabajo, mi modo de enseñar en la universidad y de hacer investigación es como si fuera una cooperativa de trabajo. So what I was saying is that the way I teach and the way I do my research work is as if it were a cooperative of workers, which is interesting in itself because many of my colleagues do not see themselves exactly as workers. In Argentina, academics see themselves not as workers, but as a special kind of beings. I hate to say this, but this is particularly true in Argentina. And the last thing I'd like to comment on is that I do know that the US is going through a very hard time now. And I guess it's important that we keep the dialogue open because it's sad to say, but Argentina has a long history of being in a difficult place altogether. And I think that, like I said in the starting of my talk, in doing things, you get to build up your concepts, your ideas, and your networks. And it's very nice for me to be here today, listening to you all talk about the different ways in which you enacted that. I feel very akin, very close to what was said today. Bueno, muchas gracias por estar ahí y aguantar el code switching, el back and forth, but I guess it made sense. Gracias.
Ana Inés, muchas gracias. También quiero reconocer la presencia de los vecinos, vecinas y miembros de la cooperativa que se encuentran en esta llamada, también por ser parte de este teaching y por ser parte de este frontline organizers. Quiero hacer un especial reconocimiento a los participantes que en este momento no están aquí presentes. Sorry. I'll switch to English. Sorry. I want to acknowledge our site organizers from Minnesota, Arlington, and Syracuse, who unfortunately could not join us for this call, but were also part of our site organizers for the November 2025 Next System teachings. We next have in the agenda April with some central learnings. Take it away, April.
So I'm actually just going to pass this to Ben for next steps because we are at the hour and I want to make sure to respect everyone's time. Ben, are you okay to take it up?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. So there was the phrase movement of movements earlier, which you came out of the movements of the millennial turn of the 2000s. And we've been talking about this process with the teach-in as being a process of building the movement of movements, of building a field of fields, which is how we see next system studies, bringing in the knowledge and the networks and the energies of many different fields in academia and outside of academia that are struggling with questions of system change from different perspectives, and also of building a system of systems to basically weave together system change efforts that are regional and at the community level, transnationally, translocally, so that we can actually speed up the pace of system change globally, at least the kind of system change that I think we all want. So that's really what this project has been about. And looking forward, this particular session was designed to be of a limited period of time, just an hour. So there's not time for the things we normally have been doing in the convergences that we've been holding or in various meetings that are happening all the time. This is really just a chance to hear from lots of people about what happened at their teach-ins and in the process of organizing their teach-ins, and then to invite everybody here, whether you've been involved already or not, to get involved with this next major push. The next round of Next System teach-ins is planned for April of 2027, so that's more than a year away. And there's a lot of work that is being done right now to prepare for that round of teach-ins. And we've talked about a goal of 100 sites for that round. And to build the teach-ins internationally. There's a very strong focus on this hemisphere here in the Americas, but we also have people on every continent who are part of this network already and who have already committed to organizing teach-ins for 2027. So we want to invite all of you to take part in that. There is a task force that meets monthly if you're interested in putting labor in, putting in some time, bringing in your organization, your association, your union. Contact us, get involved if you're not already. There will be an organizing conference in December that will be online. So basically a chance for people to talk with each other and get very practical around organizing their teach-ins. And there will be a whole series of events that are organized through the Next System, Center for Next System Studies at George Mason University, through the Next System Teach-ins Task Force, through various allied and partner organizations, some of which are here in formations. And we'll let everybody know about that. So this is an opportunity to get involved. What you can do is you can contact at nextsystem.org. So you can just email nextsystem, contact at nextsystem.org. You can go to nextsystem.org and register, and we will follow up there as well. And I'm going to pass it back. Thanks, everybody. It's just so inspiring today.
I wanted to note, Jeff is here from Arlington. Do we want to see if anyone would like to stay for 5 minutes and give Jeff an opportunity to report on his teach-in? He's offered.
I promise not to take 5 minutes, 30 seconds. We did a little bit of a different take on a teach-in. We had 50 people come to a dinner. And so that way it was really very accessible to a broad community. We ate together, we set up tables around the room, and we encouraged conversation. So I think it wasn't a traditional teach-in format, but it was well attended and people left pretty charged up to get involved. We did it in partnership with the Virginia Solidarity Economy Network. And I'll leave it at that because I know we're already over time.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you so much, everyone. We look forward to seeing you again soon and hearing from you. And thank you for taking time to join us today.
Thanks, everyone. This has been very inspiring.
And feel free to drop in the chat additional things. Y'all have been sharing wonderful insights and resources.